Professor Suen, please.
Hello, everybody. I have to thank the two Professor Leung for inviting me here to share what I've been doing for the past decade, especially in the area of entrepreneurship education. You can see my topic, design and data, story and system. I know this morning, all of you have heard a lot about big data, especially computational everything, right? Computational social science, computational biology, computational this or computational that. And then, fortunately, just now, Dr. Fu talked about, hey, the storytelling side, which is the core of being a journalist. And as journalism student, you should be proud of your storytelling tradition. But let me tell you, things really change rapidly. The MC has just introduced me. I am coming from the School of Business Administration. However, I also teach at the School of Journalism and Communication at CUHK in the area of new media and new media innovation. And so from my vantage point, in the past decade of education, especially in the area of new media and entrepreneurship, I come across a lot of entrepreneurship education work. Here is a slide that reflects a project I've been working with Hong Kong Cyberport for the past 6 years. Every year, I would take around 150 students. Actually, half of them are from Hong Kong, and then the other half are from the Pearl River Delta. Now they call it the Great Bay Area. So the students from the two regions will come together for 3 days boot camp. Or today, we'll use the word hackathon. So they will receive a training in entrepreneurship, innovation, and particularly in the area of how to build products or prototype that can demonstrate that they are eligible to be accepted to the Cyberport incubation program. Cyberport want to make use of this bootcamp to identify potential candidates that they can invest their resources, especially money, on these student teams to become the next Steve Jobs or the next big one in the area of innovation. Next. So, next. Okay, so these are the couple of institutes I've been working with. Just now, I just told you I work with Cyberport. Besides Cyberport, I also work with Hong Kong Science Park, the Hong Kong Design Center, which is a quasi-government organization that oversees the development of creative industries, especially design entrepreneurs, from fashion, from graphic design, from product and industrial design. And then the last one is PMQ, Yun Chong Fong. So I also help out and identify candidates to join the PMQ program to become the next star designers. And so I work with a lot of creative talents. Next. So this is another one. This is a new one. For the last 3 years, I've been working with the Education Bureau of Hong Kong to help, this time, not university students, but secondary school students to learn about entrepreneurship and innovation, especially under the big push of STEM education. Now, they are modifying a little bit, and the moment you see how that modification takes place, they now call it that STEAM education. So next one. Next. So what I've been doing in the last decade in the area of entrepreneurship and innovation, in a way, is really being triggered by the rise of the mobile internet. Next. So actually, if you think about the mobile app that is on your mobile phone, think about it. Behind every app, there's a company. And most of these companies are what we today call startup. They're a very small company. When they first started, they may be made up of 3 young fellows like yourself, but after a few short years, or if they are lucky, maybe after 1 year or 2 years, they get the attention of an angel investor or venture capitalist. They will receive lots of money, and then they scale up, become big company. And that's how Uber, Airbnb, become big. And today, even in Hong Kong, we start to see companies like that. One popular one, GoGoVan. I'm sure many of you have heard about GoGoVan. Just in a few short years, a few young fellows, very close to your age, now all of a sudden become millionaires, and their company is much bigger than what they originally was. Next. So that the picture I just showed you, is that kind of phenomenon, a startup, entrepreneurship, is not limited to Hong Kong or the Great Bay Area, but all over the world. And because of that, in the last 2 years, I start to be invited to do corporate training to big banks, big organizations in Hong Kong and even outside of Hong Kong, because all these traditional companies they're scared. They feel threatened by all this startup. I'm sure you have heard in the news, this big thing they call the fintech. Fintech is really challenging the traditional banking and the insurance industries. So they come up not only new technology, but new user experience in using financial services. And what comes with it is new business model to make money in the field. And the banks have never thought about that. Have they ever thought about, WeChat Pay, Alipay become, almost like an ATM machine, right? So people are now, especially young people like yourself, are becoming very used to this kind of transaction mode. So banks are losing their customers to these new players in the game. So traditional company call this kind of challenge digital disruption, and as a response, they have to transform. So another buzzword that comes with that now comes along with digital disruption is digital transformation. So because of that, I'm very happy to have more business these days, doing a lot of training and talks in digital transformation. Next. And actually behind all this so-called disruption and transformation is this hidden assumption that is for anybody, as small as one, as big as a country or a city or a company or even to a personal level. One's competence is determined now by how sophisticated you are about technology and innovation. Innovation and technology become the driving force for excellence and competence. Next. So I was talking about, the corporations are feeling scared and being threatened. So they start to change. Next. So many of them now enter the same space that the tech companies have been, dominating for the past decade. So here's an example. Suen, a big developer and property management company in Hong Kong, and they own Cathay Pacific. They are into their own innovation and incubation program, and they don't call it incubation because they can't afford the long duration to incubate a company, so they call it accelerator. They accelerate, the creation of new firms, okay, that they can acquire, become part of the enterprise. And usually this kind of acceleration program would take anywhere between 3 months to 6 months, Next. And that also happened to company like Infinity, a car manufacturer. They see the rise of, driverless car and smart car. So they're into the realm of IoT, using the car as a platform for building smart accessories to add to the car, to create more value for the drivers. So the car, in essence, become a platform for enabling technology. Next one. So the CUHK, you'll be surprised to find out the company behind the CUHK. The CUHK is another accelerator. The sponsor for the CUHK is Lane Crawford. Lane Crawford, hearing about this notion called new retail, Alibaba championed this notion, new retail. With retail space totally automated. There's already a few supermarket, cafe that's totally staffless. Everything is totally automated. From going through the aisles to pay pick your favorite items, to check out. There will be no staff. You just do it all by yourself. And so this is new retail. And Lane Crawford founded the CUHK to study retail technology in Hong Kong. Next. So, you won't be surprised to see insurance company like AIA, next, or bank like DBS, they are also into the incubation space. Okay, they can't wait, so they do accelerators. Next. So this one is also an interesting one. Namfeng is, they are garment and apparel. They just had their fashion accelerator program. So even a traditional manufacturer in the realm of garment, apparel, they know that fashion alone is not enough. They have to go into fashion technology. Next. So that's happening, not only at the startup space, but also within the big enterprises. And you can start to see the workplace is changing. Next. So you won't be surprised to see a picture like this. Google, this is Google's office, very colorful, very stimulating. They need this kind of an environment to stimulate the creativity of their staff. And also, the openness of the space to allow people to feel free. This is what the creative talents look for. Next. Now, this is a snapshot. This is not America. This is not Google. This is not Facebook. This is Hong Kong. These are all snapshots of the co-working space or the maker space that you can find all through Hong Kong. About 6 years ago, because I've been monitoring, this startup movement. About 6 years ago, we have only two, maybe 3 such spaces. But today, I have to tell you, I have almost 60 such spaces throughout Hong Kong. Very open, very colorful, very interactive, very stimulating. Next. So this is McKinsey Hong Kong. Now, even the big enterprise, now we design the interior space to look like a co-working space. McKinsey is a traditional consulting firm. They're doing that. I visited probably half a dozen big companies in the past year. They all look like this. Next one. This is South China Morning Post. If I don't tell you it's for South China Morning Post, you may think, hey, another co-working space. So even media company, but you have to know, the current CEO of South China Morning Post, he came from the state. His background is in internet, it's in startup. So even South China Morning Post is re-engineering its culture, its space to look like a co-working space, to be in time with the trend and to attract the brightest and the creative talents. Next. So behind all these changes, I observed that there's a common thread, and that thread is the notion of platform. Okay, next. So today, when you turn on your mobile phone, you tend to say, hey, what I'm going to eat today, or where I'm going to shop. There must be an app for it, right? The app becomes the intermediate for you to consume services and to purchase products. Right? And in any domain today, sometimes, those traditional companies that we're so used to, all of a sudden vanish away. In its, replacement, you start to see new companies like, I'm talking about the world scene, okay? I don't know how many of you are really keen in traveling. I travel quite a bit. So today, I don't just go online, go TripAdvisor, or go to all this hotel hotel shopping sites to look for hotel for my next stay. I go to Airbnb. I love Airbnb. It's very, very convenient and it's very comfortable. I have total freedom when I stay in an Airbnb. And when I am in Europe, in the United States, I use Uber. And it's very convenient. So this is, some of the changes that, all these platforms become our friends to provide our service. Next. So who rules the platform will rule the world. I mean, this is the game that's been, play out. Next. In the old days, if you still recall, what control desktop? Wintel, Microsoft, and Intel. So as software developers, they want to make sure that, hey, should I, at one point of time, they have to consider, hey, should I develop for Macintosh or Windows? But later on, Windows is a sure win because, Apple's market share is so small. So Windows become the platform to drive office productivity. But today, it's no longer Wintel, no longer Microsoft Windows, it's Android and iOS. Hey, think about it. At one point of time, it's not Android and iOS, it's what? How many of you used to own a Nokia? Well, not the young ones. I mean, probably most of you are either Android or iOS. But for my friends down here in the front rows, I mean, I'm sure at one point of time you used to own a Nokia or Motorola. But today, I bet you're either an iPhone or an Android, right? But don't forget, at one point of time, there's a mobile phone called Raspberry, right? But where is it now? So platform. So this, because iOS and Apple and Android, it's not just the phone itself, it's the apps that provides all this convenience. And the apps have to live on a platform. So Apple and Google become the platform that dictate our life today. Next. So in all this platform, okay, in order for them to expand their dominance or their monopoly, they open up their API. I mean, this morning or just now, Professor Fu also talked about API. One way to access data, besides scraping, besides connected to all these IoT sensors, or besides the weblog, or besides e-commerce transactions, one source is API. A lot of the the social network analysis or the data actually is through the social networks API, and there's a reason why all these companies will do their API, because when they develop the API, they open it up, they invite other companies, especially developers, to join their platform. Developers want to take advantage of the huge user base of that platform, so they have a ready market for exploitation. So API become the driving force for economics. So IBM, Harvard, you look at all those consulting firms or those firms that study business history, they start to see those platforms that dominate respective market, they have very strong API. The API is the glue for building the ecosystem of suppliers, user, customers that use the platform. Okay? So as student of data science or student of data journalism, you have to know API economy. There's a big implication there. Next. So I've been talking about the platform and how they really drive our daily lives, our career, and the economies. But one thing that's very interesting that's happening, the platforms start to grow bigger and bigger, and they go outside their own domain. Next one. Amazon is not just happy being a bookstore. So it went to retail. At first, they just do consumer electronics, but now, if you go to Amazon, you can buy a lot of different products. Same as Alibaba, Tmall, or Jingdong. They usually start out small, but they scale up and then they expand into other markets. Now, Amazon is into cafe, supermarket, hospital, same as Alibaba. Next. Tencent just recently opened a hospital in Beijing and one in Shenzhen. Okay, Amazon is doing the same thing, going into the health service. No wonder, because they have so much data. They look at the data. They know how their customers live their life. They have a lot of their health information. They have a lot of their purchase information, and they have a lot of their learning information. I won't be surprised one day. Actually, they're already doing that. Tencent, is interested. Both Tencent and Alibaba are really interested in the education market. So probably one of these days, as educators, our competition is not from other universities, but from Tencent, or from Alibaba. And they are also into the entertainment movie industry. Alibaba is they have their own movie studio. So the platform giants, they start from just one domain, but with big data, they are going into other domains. It's easy because they see the trends, and because they have a lot of capital, and they have very high market cap. They can easily use the capital to acquire the next startup, to own the technology, but they have the critical mass to exploit any market that they want to go into. Next. But obviously, technology disruption, and that comes with it, all this new economic models and economic disruption is only one kind of disruption. Our environment is also seeing a lot of disruption. Next. Obviously, politically and socially, Brexit, is a fiasco. And Donald Trump, American first, changed the rule of the game. Next. And the tension between China and United States, as we are now witnessing, it's another disruption. It changed the world order in a way that we have understood it since the Second World War. Next. So how can we cope with all these changes? Not just as educators or as an average adult, but as youths, our students, our future hope. How can you cope with it? Next. So in the last few years, in my areas, I do a lot of creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship education. People in this area asking about, hey, what are the kind of the 21st century skills we have to teach our students so that they can cope with all these changes, rapid changes and disruption, and also find fulfillment in life. Next. So, next, yeah. So some people believe, hey, maybe since a lot of all this stuff is related to technology, maybe STEM is the answer. So we start to see, a big push in STEM education. Actually, the push is not in this present regime, present administration of Donald Trump, but as early as Obama, when he was the American president, he was already pushing it. Next. And Hong Kong followed suit. So soon after, United States announced their big push in STEM education, here in Hong Kong in 2015, the EDB also announced its STEM policy. Next. So Obama, being example of the American citizen, he wrote his first line of code in front of the TV audience. Hey, Obama can code. Why can't you? So everybody, regardless of age, can become a coder. Next. Hong Kong follow suit. So we also have our hour of code. The Hong Kong government is pushing people to learn coding. Next. So all of a sudden, as small as 4 years old, 5 years old kids learning how to program, with tools. There's a very popular coding tool from MIT called Scratch, the visual programming language, that you can easily find in a lot of schools today in Hong Kong. They are teaching young fellows learning how to code. Next. And this is just an example. During summer seasons, no school. Presumably, the kids can take a rest from the busy schoolworks, no tests, no exam. But some monster parents still want them to learn. So all these classes, coding classes, you can look at them. It's not cheap, okay? Close to $5,000. The programs, summer camp, is 3 weeks programs. It starts as young as 6 to 8 years old, and then the next hop is 9 to 11, and then 12 to 14, and then 15 plus. So I'm showing you the 6 to 8 years program. Close, meaning all fill up. And all these are coding programs. Next. So BBC, it's United Kingdom. They also start to talk about computational thinking, the thinking behind coding. So They want the average British citizen to learn how to think computationally and how to code. Next. But interestingly, with all this computational this and computational that, big data, okay, is this the solution to our present disruption? Google has a different answer. Since inception, Google has been doing a research on their employees. They are one of the platform, right? They have lots of data, right? Google studied every employee since they joined the firm, and they came up with a surprising result. The question they try to ask with this data is, what makes a Google employee excel within Google? Meaning, how do they rise up the rank and become top? They have eight measures. Interestingly, out of the 8 measures, STEM skill is at the bottom, number 8. The rest of the skills is really, top on the list. It's not STEM related. Click. Next. Okay, stop. I highlight this. The remaining 7 attributes are all soft skills. Empathy, relationship with coworkers, collaboration, processing insight to others. So it's not, apparently it's not just the STEM. Next. So that's why you start to hear the word STEAM replacing STEM. So there's one more letter in the word STEAM. The letter is A. What does A stand for? Arts. Actually, it's not just fine arts. It's the liberal sense of the word. It's liberal arts, the humanities. Okay. Next. And there's, I'm sure many of you have heard about this movement called design thinking. So actually, a lot of people talk about, hey, STEM is not enough. We need, the liberal arts, and especially liberal arts advised by design thinking. Design thinking allows people to assume the perspective of an average person. Actually, the word design thinking kind of very specialized, limited to just designer. It's not. The original intent is because we live in a designed world. Everything that we now see is all the artifacts that are being designed. The chairs that we sit on, the clothes we wear, the glasses we have, the iPhone that we have in our pocket, our shoes, everything is designed. So all of these things being designed have to meet human needs. So design thinking put human needs at the center. So all of a sudden I see some educators talking about, hey, can we enrich STEM with STEAM and with design thinking? Next. So design thinking all of a sudden start to infiltrate K-12 education in the United States and then Europe, and now it's coming to Hong Kong. Next. So the reason why I'm talking about computational thinking and then design thinking is because I've been involved in promoting that in Hong Kong now. And all this are the so-called 21st century skills, I think, not just you as journalism and communication students should learn, but actually it's becoming a common literacy that everybody should learn. Next. Next. Because we no longer live in the industrial world. I mean, since the Industrial Revolution, our society, our education system try to tell us, you have to be a specialist. Okay, in Hong Kong, you want to become a medical doctor or lawyer, right? The top talents, specialists. But in the age of the network, especially the age of intelligent network, it's no longer just being specialized that will make you excel. Actually, I will tell you, being a specialist is very easy to be replaced by AI because AI is the specialist among specialists. Look at our champion in Go. It's not human being. It's AI. Okay? Ironically, at one point in time, we tried to differentiate against each other by being a specialist. But today, our competitors, not just our neighbor next door, but AI. But AI is not a generalist. So human being, in order to differentiate against AI, we have to be very good generalists. Connection. Living in the internet world, we have to know how our specialties get connected with other specialty. So we start to hear about T-shape. We're not telling you to forget about your specialty in journalism or communication. That is fine. Keep it. But you need to stretch yourself. You know, what I've been talking about, computational thinking, design thinking, these are new literacy you have to acquire. Next. IDEO, one of the champion of design thinking in the last decade, you know, they speak out frankly. They said, hey, T-shaped talents, they are a backbone of innovation at IDEO. Next. Next. This is a report published by the Academy of Science of Hong Kong. They also talk about T-shaped talent. In the executive summary, they point out innovation and scientific research, as well as the ability to solve complex problems, nowadays require multidisciplinary training and possession of so-called T-shaped knowledge. And it has a whole chapter criticizing DSE, saying that DSE cannot produce the T-shaped talents. Next. And Finland is becoming, you know, a champion of breaking down, you know, the silo between subjects. Okay, it's happening. Next, Harvard. Okay, Harvard is, you know, well known for its scholarship and attracting the best talents and producing, you know, a lot of outstanding world leaders. They are, besides advocating you know, the liberal education, they also encourage the student to embrace all these T-shaped skills, including computer thinking. The next slide will have a video talking about how Harvard see computational thinking should take place. Here's an example of a course. The biggest course in Harvard is called CS50. Let's see what it's like. How you play it.
Hello, world. This is Sanders Theater at Harvard University. And this is CS50, Harvard's Introduction to the Intellectual Enterprises of Computer Science and the Art of Programming. But what does that mean? Well, CS50 is a course that teaches you how to design and implement solutions to problems. But more than that, it teaches you how to think more critically, more methodically, more computationally, if you will. In fact, computer science itself isn't really about computers, or programming for that matter. It's really about information. How do you think about it? How do you represent it? And with what methods or algorithms can you process it?
So at the core of this class, every year they have about 800 students taking the class. And then if you do those who take it remotely online, they have about 2,000 students taking the class. Let's see how the class looks like. Next. It's like a hackathon. It's like a fair. It looks fun. They have a fair too. A class has its own fair. not only Harvard, Yale too, but other Ivy League. So this great education institutes want computational thinking to touch every one of their students. Next. So that's what Harvard's doing with computational thinking. Stanford, another great university. Think about it, it's located at the heart of Silicon Valley. A lot of Silicon Valley stars, they came right out of Stanford. Stanford has another story to tell. Next. And here's a talk about the Stanford D School and about design thinking. A talk at MIT, actually.
The thing got started was,
I
I started teaching classes with a computer science professor, Terry Winograd, and a business school professor, and an art professor. And I'm totally focused on classes. I don't do research. And so the classes, I noticed that the students were really excited. You see their eyes kind of sparkle as they enjoyed this interaction with these other people from different departments. And the thing that really got it going was they were willing to sign up to our methodology, design thinking, as a way to kind of be the glue that held them together. Because before that, multidisciplinary stuff looked like people kind of serially coming together and trying to do things. But they really didn't have a uniform methodology of how you go about and understand people and decide what your point of view is and innovate routinely, come up with new ideas all the time. This notion that we could bring people from different disciplines around the university and bring them together, and they could work together using design thinking. You could just tell, it was just so exciting to see how they just found their creative confidence. These students could see that by building on the ideas of each other coming from these different places, they came up with breakthrough ideas, and it was really exciting. And so I knew that we had to institutionalize this at Stanford. The big idea really is that people, diversity plus design thinking results in these kind of breakthrough ideas. So the university president has asked us to touch as many Stanford students as possible. That Stanford will be known that the people that graduate there are creative, are confident in their creative ability. And so how you do that's another story. But it'll be interesting to see just how many have the appetite when we scale to the point that classes are available for everybody.
Isn't it interesting? Harvard is talking about using computational thinking to touch every student, while Stanford want to make sure every student have a taste of design thinking. Okay? So it's kind of like the right brain and the left brain. They have to come together. Okay, next. So what's happening in Hong Kong? The EDB is pushing computational thinking, especially with the financial support from Jockey Club. Jockey Club has spent a lot of money, even at the elementary school level, making sure a lot of kids, maybe your younger brother or sister, they are learning computational thinking at that age. Next. And then design thinking is being pushed by the SAR government. I've been involved, as I told you earlier, I've been involved in a project supported by Hong Kong government, a 3-year project to promote design thinking in Hong Kong. Next. So being T-shaped, I've been talking about T-shaped now. We are beyond the industrial age, right? We're in the network age. Everything has to be connected. So being T-shaped, you have to master this new kind of literacy. Computational thinking and design thinking. Next. Design thinking, there are many schools. I'm using the methodology, the process advocated by Stanford. This process has a different step. At the heart of the design thinking methodology is user experience. How do you use the method to identify the pain, the needs of a user in learning, in living their day, in finding a career, in dealing with the pain of a lost one? So design thinking is really about empathy, and through empathy, you come up with solution. Okay, and one of the key in design thinking is the discovery of user stories. Storytelling is at the heart of design thinking. I've been teaching design thinking for over 10 years now. So So I want to tell you, storytelling is no longer just the the luxury or the monopoly of the journalism school anymore. You know, I'm from the business school, okay, and business school put heavy emphasis on storytelling. As business executive, they have to pitch, they have to do a lot of business presentation, communication, right? Without good storytelling skill, you know, it's very difficult to be a business leader. So don't think that you are safe. Hey, I'm a journalist. I am a communication major. Storytelling is my cup of tea, right? No, it's no longer true. If storytelling become a common literacy, you know, as design thinking is going to be, many students will be taught with the same skills that you are now learning. So you have to think deep. What will be the core of being a journalism and communication student in the 21st century? Okay, so next. Computer thinking, they also have their methodology, okay? Computer thinking is really based on analysis and logic and system, okay? So there's plenty of material online, and when you go through the material, you see this 5 steps, very similar to design thinking. They have a methodology, a process. I encapsulated in this little diagram. So next one. But you can put them together. Okay, so I built a simple table for you to see, you know, the relationship. So if you combine, the different steps along the way, basically you're talking about collect and analyze stories and data to understand the stakeholder and discover their needs. Find an angle into a problem, understanding a problem, and start to see whether your understanding is supported by facts and data. The next step is, it's not just an understanding, but clear definition. Because when you have to, later on, when you have to build a model, a computational model, your definition have to be very exact. So you have to synthesize recurring persona, or like the archetype of your story, a protagonist in the story, the context of the occurrence, the artifacts and the scenario of interaction within the story. Pattern will emerge. And computer scientists love patterns. Data scientists also love patterns, okay? So those patterns will tell you the who, the what, and the why. And then the next stage, you have to ideate. Okay, what are the possible solutions? You know, from a design thinking point of view, and also from a computational point of view. But in a computational point of view, you have to build different computational model, making use of the data you have acquired or captured, and then you start to mine the patterns. And then build prototypes, build algorithm, experience prototype or story prototype and computation model to see how the scenario can be represented qualitatively and quantitatively. Okay? So story is not enough. We need system. We need models. Okay? And then those stories, those models have to be validated. Okay? So this is the process I think future students or future educated person will have to master. I think they are general problem discovery and problem solving skills. And they should be the basis for innovation. Next. Okay? So in design thinking, we teach about user experience and how to map the user journey or the user experience. And in computation thinking, we're talking about data mining, data mapping. And the two should be combined. So the combination would turn the story into system and the user experience into data. Okay? Back to my topic today. I'm trying to wrap things up. Okay, next. So at CUHK, 2 years ago, we started a new program, a campus-wide program called Innovation and Entrepreneurship. 18 credits, 6 courses. Okay? Regardless of your major, whether you're a philosophy major, music major, art major, law major, medicine, business, engineering, you can minor innovation and entrepreneurship. And as one of the compulsory courses is design thinking, and I'm the one who's teaching it. Next. But the same, and this is Hong Kong U. This is a new program that Hong Kong U put out the new academic year. Look at it, Bachelor of Arts and Science. It's not arts, just science. And let's see, next. In this new major, next, Bachelor of Arts and Science, they have some core courses and also area of concentration. If you just look at those titles, you thought, hey, isn't that engineering school? Apply AI, Design Plus, FinTech, Global Health and Development, Social Data Science. Definitely T-shaped. Okay, next. So I've also been involved in a lot of interdisciplinary education. Back at CUHK, for the last year, I've been conducting a lot of workshops for other faculties in the area of digital storytelling, apply digital tools in telling stories with data. So in my workshop, I will teach the data cycle and telling stories of data, starting from data acquisition through API, scraping, IoT, web log analysis, A/B tests, to data cleaning. You know, the data is not clean initially. You have to clean it up. So there are tools for cleaning up the data. And then after you clean up the data, you have to model it, mine it, and then visualize it. I mean, Professor Fu just now showed, data visualization. We also did that in our workshop. And we have some workshop is conducted in the R programming language and others. And the ones that I conducted is in Python. Okay. And then this is the Data and Media Hack event. This is the second year we're doing this. Last year it was held in CUHK. This year it's going to be held in HKBU. It's open to all universities. Okay, I hope I can see you guys this Friday, Saturday at HKBU. Data and Media Hack. It's not limited to journalism and communication students. Actually, many students from the business school, engineering school, psychology department, and other departments are also joining this event. Next. So, key insight for talent development. Okay, this is next. This is my observation. I think we're living in an age that we have to change our mindset about learning. Okay. Things are changing so rapidly. Disruption is the word, right? And then we have to transform as a result. And because of the speed of this disruption, there are a lot of gaps, knowledge gaps, skill gaps between generation. Earlier I was telling Louis, a student of mine, a first-year student, came to me, Professor Suen, I know what I start to feel. The generation gap. I said, what? You talk about generation gap? He said, I'm a first-year student, but I have my schoolmates who are just 2 years younger than me. They are learning how to code because, because of the new EDB policy, STEM education is now being promoted in elementary school and secondary school. So everybody is now learning how to code. And I don't know how to code. And in a few short years, I will be in the market. And I can imagine that my future boss will rather hire, my junior than myself, right? Because they know more than me. So, but let me tell you, in China, they are already teaching AI in high school. So the knowledge gaps, the skill gaps are really widening. So harness, and also it leads to new lifestyle too, right? Lifestyle and usability of the millennium for new business opportunity and talents. And then I think the current workforce has to retune to exploit the emerging challenges and opportunities. And there, as leaders, I don't envy today's business leaders because they have to manage different generation of workers. Some workers are about to retire and very difficult to change. And then some at the middle age, they're stuck at the middle. They don't know whether they should go back to school to learn or just Hopefully they can retire soon, but we know that the Hong Kong government is extending the retirement age, right? And then we start to see all these little kids from elementary school, secondary school, learning all this technology stuff. So imagine you are in a position of hiring and managing talents and grooming them, but there are all these generation gaps. How can you align them so that they can help the company to prosper and to succeed? Not easy. Thank you very much. That is my sharing today.